Hey there, come on in. We've saved a seat for you. I'm Jonathan, and this is Boards and Chords, and welcome to Tabletop Simulator. Would you want to play a board game with your cousin who lives overseas? Or maybe you're thinking that you might like to buy a tabletop game, but no one you know has it to let you borrow it and try it out, and it costs $70. Well, the Tabletop Simulator video game solves that problem for you. Tabletop Simulator is not so much a game itself, but it's a gaming environment for and connected to your community through the game development, game delivery system, and it's played through your computer or your virtual reality gear. While many board game developers have released video games versions of their tabletop games, Tabletop Simulator provides actually a virtual game table and some basic games to play on it, such as things like checkers and chess and dominoes. Downloadable content can also be purchased for dozens of additional games, such as Scythe or Zombicide, Cosmic Encounter, and more. Additionally, Tabletop Simulator gives access to a sandbox of tools and assets into which the player can import graphics, models, and landscape pieces to create and share their favorite games through the Steam Workshop. These user-accessible development tools mean that any moderately popular board game is practically assured to be available from the Steam Workshop to download into Tabletop Simulator for free. Using the Tabletop Simulator video game purchased from Steam, it seems to go frequently on sale. Once downloaded and launched, a tutorial becomes available to orient the new player to the tools and mechanics of the simulator, and it's well worth taking the time to go through. Single and multiplayer modes are then available to select from, and it's well advised that you take a little time to practice manipulating the game pieces, hiding your card hands and such in a single player game before jumping into a multiplayer game and fumbling around. In multiplayer, you may create or join a game listed in the game match lobby and match managed by Steam connectivity. Private games can be restricted by password if you wish to play only with a friend or a pre-selected gaming group. Once the game is joined in the lobby, the digital game assets will be confirmed and downloaded as needed on each computer, and then the game can start. This has the benefit of requiring that the DLC or Steam Workshop content only be initially present on the computer of the player who hosts the game. All others will download it automatically as they enter the particular game. Tabletop Simulator being a gaming environment and not a game itself, the content and quality of the components vary wildly among the content developers. So I'll just make some general technical and mechanical comments about it instead. Again, the graphics will depend on the created output from the individual developer of the game on the table, so I can't say much about that specifically. However, the environment is a 3D space in a decent engine, lending itself to some attractive and detailed models. Sound is basically non-existent in the game, although there is some allowances made for sound cues or environmental sounds or even music via a virtual MP3 player object that can be placed in the game for shared experience. Since mostly tabletop gaming sounds are the verbal interaction of the players amongst themselves, the absence of sound effects or soundtrack is appropriate and isn't really a negative. As I keep stressing, Tabletop Simulator is a gaming environment simulator, so it doesn't have AI interaction or control. This means that single-player mode is for learning the mechanics of the simulator itself or playing a single-player game. You won't have a computer opponent for your game of chess or Catan, and Tabletop Simulator won't teach or enforce the rules of whatever game you're playing. What Tabletop Simulator does well, then, is virtually render the visual components and provide the mechanics needed for gameplay. Things such as flipping cards or moving tokens or other game pieces, zooming to examine details or read text on the cards or other components, moving pieces on a board, and privately viewing cards in your hand and things like that. Each of my kids and I have a Steam account, and at some point in the last couple of years, I bought a bundle of licenses for Tabletop Simulator that went on sale on Steam, and I gifted them to the kids and a couple of friends. Having, in addition to my main gaming computer, an older laptop, a retired game computer from several years back, and a couple of other clunker PCs, we're able to cobble together a LAN party in our office to play together, and this generally gives us a pretty good virtual gaming experience. Still, I prefer we play our card and board games on an actual table. So what we mainly use Tabletop Simulator for is for previewing games as part of the decision process. Our rule is that if we play a game twice in the simulator and are enjoying it both times, we buy the boxed version for our table. This helps us make good decisions, as we may realize that we don't like the mechanics of a particular game or that the gameplay of another one is really terrific. Also importantly, it supports the game developers, encouraging more game production, and it signals our retail outlet that they should carry more of these kind of games. The bottom line for us with Tabletop Simulator is that we like it and we use it from time to time, but the priority of games lie on those that are on our gaming shelves. Still, it works well, and it is especially handy for trying out new games or playing with friends or family that cannot be there in the room with us. Board gaming strength lies in the social aspects of a group coming together, playing a game, laughing, and competing together. While Tabletop Simulator, and some physical board games for that matter, can be played solo, you'll probably be wanting to play with friends and family. One of the benefits of Tabletop Simulator, as mentioned before, is allowing you to try games before investing in the full, often expensive, boxed version, thus potentially saving lots of money over time if you find out the game doesn't suit you. This is great for families on a budget like ours. However, you do have to buy a copy of Tabletop Simulator for whoever will be playing and have a separate computer available for each person. This will likely be more of an impediment for families considering this purchase, especially those with large families. A more likely solution would be that for the main decision maker to buy the simulator, download some games, and then test drive it solo or online with a friend, or maybe in a pickup game of multiplayer. Similarly, if your family has a second computer, you could just buy a second license, trying the game out with two instead of the whole family or gaming group. As for objectionable content warnings, it's all really going to depend on the game being played. The simulator environment itself is very neutral, being simply a virtual table with a background like stars or forests or something like that. The game being played and the user implementation and modification of that game can contain pretty much anything, so this will require some faith in the community or some cautious previewing of the game prior to play. So the ratings that I give for the content of this game reflect that variance. So as the game play changes depending on what game you're playing on, there's not really a strategy tip that I have for you on this game. So we'll just skip right on past that part today. Instead, we'll go to my final thoughts on Tabletop Simulator. And those would be that, it's really great for previewing games. It's great for sampling the different components and looking at see how the game is put together and how the mechanics work. It's really great for playing with people who you would like to play a game with but aren't in the room with you, aren't in the city perhaps, maybe across the country. coordinated game with them who you wouldn't otherwise be able to play with. That can be pretty special too, and I've done so on several occasions. I would suggest this to you. This is, of course, a little bit different kind of review today. We're talking about the computer games and the video versions of tabletop games. So it seems like a pretty good segue into the chords part of the boards and chords experience here. So that's going to wrap it up for us today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and do consider getting this title. I think you'll enjoy it if you have the right environment in which to play it and some people who you can play it with. As I say, if nothing else, it's a good way to preview some games, even on your own, as if you have one computer and nobody else to play with. All right, so that'll do it for us today. We'll see you again next time on Boards and Chords. Bye. Thanks for joining us on Boards and Chords. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or at our website at boardsandchords.com. We'll see you at the table.